Imagine working hard to buy the car of your dreams, only for someone to demand it for free, just because they feel entitled to it. That's exactly what happened when I made a decision to buy a Lamborghini. The excitement of finally owning this luxurious car was quickly overshadowed by a shocking reaction from my own son. Yes, you heard that right. My son, who's currently jobless, actually broke down in tears when I drove home in the Lamborghini, demanding that I give it to him. He didn't ask, he expected it. At first, I thought it was a joke, but as he continued to plead with me, it became clear that he was serious. He felt that, since I had the car, it should just be handed over to him without any effort on his part. It was like all his dreams hinged on me giving him that car. And that's when I realized just how much entitlement can influence someone's mindset, especially when they aren't willing to work for what they want. I was left standing there, in total disbelief, trying to process what just happened. Should I have given in to his demands? Or is there a bigger lesson about tough love and responsibility to be learned here? Let's dive into what unfolded next. To understand why his reaction was so shocking, you need a bit of background. My son had always been someone I tried to guide. He was a smart kid, no doubt, but somewhere along the way, he lost his way. After high school, he was full of big dreams, telling everyone he was going to make it big, start his own business, become successful. But, as time passed, those dreams seemed to slip further and further out of reach. Instead of taking action, he kept coming up with excuses. He'd tell me he was waiting for the right opportunity, or that everything just wasn't aligning yet. Meanwhile, I was working hard, grinding day after day to build a life I was proud of. Then, I made the decision to buy the Lamborghini. It wasn't something I did on a whim. It was a symbol of everything I had worked for. A reminder that hard work pays off. I remember driving it home, feeling that rush of excitement, and for a brief moment, it felt like everything had fallen into place. But that excitement quickly turned into confusion when I saw my son's reaction. The look in his eyes was something I'll never forget. It was a mix of disbelief and frustration, but mostly, it was a sense of entitlement that I hadn't seen before. It was like he truly thought that just because I had something nice, he should have it too. His words stung, but even more so was the way he tried to guilt-trip me into giving him the car. I didn't know how to respond at that moment, but it left me questioning, how did we get here? And what did this mean for our relationship moving forward? As my son continued to plead with me, it felt like the room was closing in. I could tell he wasn't just upset about the Lamborghini itself, it was something deeper. The more he talked, the more I realized that this wasn't just about a car, it was about his frustrations with his life. I had always tried to support him, but I never quite understood the weight of his expectations until that moment. His words cut deeper than I expected. You always get everything you want. Why can't I have it for once? It was like I was facing a stranger, someone who had been so close to me, yet seemed so distant now. I tried to talk to him, to explain that nothing comes for free and that hard work is the key to achieving something meaningful. But he wasn't listening. His mind was made up. All he could think about was how I had something he didn't, and in his mind, it wasn't fair. This wasn't the first time I had tried to talk to him about responsibility and work ethic. Over the years, I had given him advice, offered him opportunities, even tried to help him find jobs. But every time, there was an excuse. I'm not ready yet, or it's just not the right fit. I'd supported him through it all, but after so many years of disappointment, I was beginning to feel like I was enabling him to avoid facing the realities of life. And now seeing him demand the Lamborghini like it was his birthright, it felt like a slap in the face. I could sense that something had shifted in him. Maybe it was the years of feeling like he was owed something, or perhaps he had lost hope in ever getting ahead on his own. Either way, it was becoming clear that this was about more than just a car. It was about self-worth and the deep-rooted resentment he was carrying. But I wasn't sure how to break through that wall. The tension in the room was unbearable, and as he stormed off in frustration, I was left standing there, wondering where we went wrong. What had I missed in all those years of trying to be a supportive parent? Had I failed him, or was this something he needed to work through on his own? It felt like no matter what I said, I was never going to reach him. And now, with that Lamborghini sitting in the driveway, the question lingered. The days after that argument were some of the hardest. My son barely spoke to me, his anger simmering just below the surface. Every time I tried to approach him, it was like he was a different person, cold, distant, and completely closed off. It was painful to watch him retreat further into himself. I kept asking myself, was this my fault? Had I really created this rift by giving him everything he ever asked for without teaching him the value of hard work? I didn't have the answers, but I couldn't let it go. I knew something had to change. One evening, a few days later, he came to me. His face was different, hollow eyes, his usual swagger gone. He wasn't angry anymore, but he wasn't himself either. He sat down next to me in silence, and for a moment, I thought maybe he was finally ready to talk. But he just stared at the ground, his hands trembling. After what felt like an eternity, he finally spoke. I'm sorry," he mumbled, barely above a whisper. "I didn't mean what I said. I don't know what to do anymore." The words were unexpected, but the way he said them, it was clear that he was lost. He wasn't asking for Lamborghini anymore. No. What he wanted was something far deeper: answers, guidance, a way out of a hole he felt trapped in. But the moment didn't last long. Before I could respond, there was a knock at the door, sharp and insistent. My son's face hardened again, and for the first time in days, I saw the flicker of something familiar. The anger, the frustration, the hunger for something more than what he felt he had. I opened the door, and standing there was a stranger, a man I didn't recognize, holding a letter. He handed it to me without a word and left just as quickly as he came. I stared down at the envelope in my hands, feeling my heart skip a beat. The words on the front were simple: asterisk for you and your son asterisk. Confused, I ripped it open. Inside, there was a single sheet of paper, a contract of sorts, but the details were chilling. As I read through the fine print, I felt the ground beneath me shift. The letter wasn't just an offer, it was a game changer. And whatever this was, it would change everything, not just for me, but for my son as well. I could already feel the tension building, the storm that was about to hit. What was this all about? And how would this strange turn of events affect the fragile relationship I was trying so hard to repair with my son? I stood frozen, the paper trembling in my hands. As I read the letter again, it felt like the words were sinking in slower, each sentence heavier than the last. The letter wasn't just some random offer, it was an invitation to something I never saw coming. The contract inside outlined an incredible business proposal, one that promised instant wealth, connections, and success. But the catch was unsettling. It wasn't just a business deal. The letter made it clear that my son and I would have to commit to this new venture together, and the terms were strange. It almost felt like a test. My mind raced as I processed everything. This wasn't the type of opportunity I had ever imagined, let alone expected. It was too good to be true, and something about it felt off. But what shook me more than the bizarre contract was what the letter hinted at in the final paragraph. It implied that the success I had been building for years, the Lamborghini, the life I had worked so hard to achieve, wasn't just mine. The contract suggested that in order to truly prosper, I'd have to share everything. All of it, even the car. I looked up, and there my son stood, watching me from the doorway. His eyes were wide, searching mine for any sign of how I was reacting. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. He had seen the letter, too. "I saw that letter, Dad," he said, his voice tight. "What is this? Who sent it?" I turned it over in my hands, unsure how to explain. "I don't know, but I'm not signing anything until we figure out what's going on." Then, without warning, the phone rang. It was an unknown number, but something in my gut told me it was connected to whatever was unfolding. My son looked at me, the same tension that had been in his eyes earlier returning, only this time it was stronger. He stepped forward and grabbed the phone from my hand before I could even say hello. "What do you want?" he demanded, his voice sharp. I heard a low chuckle on the other end of the line before the voice spoke, calm but menacing. "Is this the son of the man who's been offered the deal? The one who owns the Lamborghini?" My son's face went pale. He slowly backed away from me, and for the first time, I saw genuine fear in his eyes. The person on the other end of the line continued, "I think you want to hear this, son. If your father doesn't take this offer, the consequences will be severe. I suggest you make sure he understands that." My heart raced as I watched my son drop the phone, the color draining from his face. I didn't know who was behind this strange offer or what they truly wanted, but I could feel it. The stakes were higher than I could have ever imagined, and the last thing I wanted was to drag my son any deeper into this mess. But we didn't have a choice. Something was coming, and I could feel the storm closing in fast. The tension in the room was unbearable as my son and I stared at each other, both of us trying to process everything that had just happened. I felt like I was standing at the edge of a cliff, knowing that if I made the wrong move, everything would fall apart. But I couldn't back down. I couldn't let some mysterious force dictate my life or my son's future. I took a deep breath, gripping the letter tightly in my hands. "We're not signing anything," I said firmly, trying to sound more confident than I felt. "We'll figure this out together." But just as I turned to say something more, my son suddenly grabbed my arm. "Dad, I've been thinking about what they said on the phone. Maybe we need to take this seriously. Maybe this is the way out." His words struck me like a bolt of lightning. Was he really considering it? Was he willing to go down this path after everything we'd been through? I pulled away from him, shaking my head. "No, this is not the way out. We don't take shortcuts, and we don't let people manipulate us into making decisions we're not ready for." The phone rang again. I picked it up, this time determined not to let it control me. "Hello," I said, my voice steady. A different voice greeted me this time, but the tone was chillingly calm. "I see you've made your decision, but just so you know, we've already made ours. You're both involved now, whether you like it or not." Before I could respond, the line went dead. My son was pacing around the room, his face clouded with doubt. "What do they mean by that, Dad? Why do they keep saying we're both involved?" I didn't have the answers. Not yet, but something wasn't right. I was about to tell him that we needed to call the police when suddenly the front door flew open with a crash. A man stormed into the house, his face obscured by a dark mask. He was holding something in his hand, something small and metallic. My son's eyes widened. "Who the hell are you?" he demanded, but the man didn't respond. He simply advanced toward me. "Dad," my son shouted, "get down." But it was too late. The man lunged forward, and everything seemed to happen in slow motion. The object he was holding wasn't a weapon, it was a key. A strange, intricate key, and before I could react, he slammed it into the ignition of the Lamborghini, which was parked just outside.